So, I would like to start today's episode with a question. And it's a question that's been kind of coming up over and over the last 2 weeks, maybe three, let's just say. Though it's definitely something I've seen coming. It's a trajectory that I've watched in motion for the last 2 years. What the fuck happened to Russell Brand? I don't know if anybody else has been watching this desperate attempt to find a deeper level of connection to reality through some external strategy, but it's getting out of hand. Like for a while, it was just Wim Hof and the breathing thing, and you're like, all right, cool, that's your thing. You spend that much time sitting in a fucking ice bath. You do what you need to in terms of breathing in a specific way. Do whatever it is you need to do because all you're really trying to do is get out of your head so you can feel free. That's all you're trying to do is just learn how to pay attention without getting caught up in this fiction of yourself. Fine. But because he has a show that talks about the shit that's happening in the world, because he has a show that deliberately talks about the corruption in government, about a lot of the stuff that's happening on the world stage, all of that, you're looking at the shit all the time. And so it would be very difficult to look at that, still feel a detached calm about it, recognizing that all you can do is really be aware of it. All you can do is really, do what you're doing in terms of being your ripple and expressing yourself. But instead, I think it started to drag him down more and more, and which is where this desperation to go to find some path came from. And now he's just full out fucking Christian. Like he had a video on his TikTok today, and I encourage you to go find it out because it starts off as, "Are you too clever for Christianity?" And I find that to be such an incredible argument because he's exploring Christianity and he's finding all this great stuff that he's cherry picking and looking for. And he's disregarding the entire history of Christianity because while I will admit that not all Christians are going to go out and burn you at the stake, there is an underlying message behind religion and belief that is egotistical, that is divisive, that is destructive. And while it might have some pleasant points, it is a spectrum. It is a spectrum, which is why religion has been at the root of so many atrocities over time. It's because it's egotistical. And on that spectrum, there's an extreme end. And the more you need to believe in religion, the more extreme that end gets. And so while this might seem like, hey, I'm just feeling better because I'm connecting to the universe through Jesus Christ and all that stuff, if you read the comment section underneath there are people just frothing at the mouth about this. Like, thank you, brother. Welcome to the fold, brother. And they are just taking it as another way to separate themselves from everyone else. And he doesn't see it because he's too busy trying to cope with the hell that he is creating in his own mind by trying to get out of the world that he perceives to be true, regardless, without actually recognizing it's not the world. That's the problem with looking at all of this shit in the world. That's the problem with looking at, the World Economic Forum and the governments and corruption and the fucking, petroleum companies and all of the industry that's happening and all that shit. You look at all of it and you actually start to assume that's all that's happening. You read the headlines, you look at the news, you read about the corruption, you see the obvious fucking shit that's happening, and you actually start to assume that's all that's happening, not that it's just all you're focused on. The world that you perceive is not the world that is, any more than the person you talked to last is the person that you perceive yourself to have talked to last. It's important to recognize that. The hell you're running from is your own perception, your own assumption. And that's based on your own need for certainty. Let go. Let go. And then you don't need to clutch to some religion that's making you feel better temporarily because you don't need to feel better.
Yeah, seeing some of his more recent videos has been like, you sent me one of them, and he was going through all his morning routines and everything that he does, and I was waiting for the punchline, like, the whole video. I was like, it's got oh my gosh, he was serious the whole time. It was like ice bath, tapping, prayers, like saying a Hail Mary, and I was totally unaware that he had become Christian, but that like, my perspective on religion has obviously changed a lot. And even when I, you know, was starting to wonder about it and even just be curious about it, I still kind of have had this perspective like there's like a good twang to it. There's like a pleasant, because there's a pleasant twang to it, but even the act of going to church, like, who's that for? It's for you. It's for me. That's it. Like, that's all that it is. It's like such a peak of egotism, of like a way to reinforce me to feel better about things that I'm unsure of. It gives me an answer. It gives me an answer to things that are some of my biggest, deepest fears, and the whole time reinforces me. And it's a right thing. And so, those comments are so funny. They just riddle, anyone who posts, any big person. Who's the other guy from Guardians of the Galaxy, Parks and Rec?
Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt, man. Like, he'll go on a spiel that's like, sounds great. And he'll be like, all glory to God at the end, like, and thank God for blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, see, like, expressing it, and then it's on God, and that's the thing. That's like the thing that allows me to maintain me. Something else. It's coming from somewhere else. And so it's like you get to reap the egotistical rewards of that with none of the freedom whatsoever. You look like you found
I
something.
can't help it, because so you just reminded me there's another guy that's been out there, another celebrity, Mark Wahlberg, and I was on TikTok the other day, and all of a sudden Mark Wahlberg's on my screen, and he's in front of a church. He's like, "Hi, this might seem like an odd question, but do you have time to pray?" And I was just like, "Nope." Swipe. I was just like, "Fine." But it's for this new app. I think it's called Hallow or something like that, and it's a prayer app. It's another one of those, and it's just so funny because it's like, if you were getting the peace and the connection to God and all that, that you're telling everybody else that your path delivers, you wouldn't be out there convincing anyone about it. You'd be living it, right? Like, if you actually felt connected to God, where would you go? Like, why would you even assume that everybody's disconnected? Only because you feel disconnected. It's just so very interesting. Like, everybody out there that's like, you need to connect to God, is telling you that because they don't feel connected. And yet they're like, follow me. It's like, you don't know where you're going. You just know you have a problem. You don't even understand what that problem is, but you're like, I found a solution. Look at all the people who are meandering about with me. We all know the solution. It's like, but you haven't found it. It's just like the dude that came into the Collins show the last time. Like, the guy goes on and on about how the world is suffering and the world is misery and the world is blah 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 blah. Right? That I'm suffering. Everything is guilt. Everything is distortion. But he's like, listen to me though. I know the right answer, but you're not actually living it. Like, nothing you're doing makes me want to follow that, right? Because I'm not desperate to get out of what I'm experiencing. See, that's the thing, is that the more I'm like, this shouldn't be. I don't like this. This isn't fair. I don't deserve this. The more I'm willing to follow some motherfucker who's just like, hey, I know the way out, without actually looking at it, without vetting it at all. Right? As long as it's a good show, as long as they seem pretty confident about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna follow that asshole. Right? This is something I'm always telling people here on the show. Don't follow me. The only reason I feel confident in any way, shape, or form is because I don't need to. I'm I have nothing to convince you. I have nothing to convince myself. But that's the whole point, right? You don't need to follow anything. But if you think about this, and I would like everyone to think about this, Buddha wasn't Buddhist. Jesus wasn't Christian. So perhaps the answer is not following, because neither of them were. And yet everybody else who does follow them wonders why their hell doesn't end. So the underlying question here is, why do you need to follow? Like, why can you not just let go and trust yourself? Why is that such a foreign concept? Why is that so hard to grasp? And it's because it's uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable because you have an idea of yourself that invalidates that possibility, that is full of doubt, that is full of fear, that is full of conflict. And when you look at that idea of yourself, you're like, how can I just let go? It's like, because that's not you. You're not actually thinking of you. You're thinking of a small portion of you that your brain needs to process whatever the hell it's going through, and then it's going to change. You're never the you that you're thinking about. But if you're trying to think about it, it's impossible to let go. How do I trust myself? That's not it. All right? That's it. There's no way to look at yourself. You have to just carry on.
Oh, like none of the times that you come up with some sort of story, but it doesn't mean that it isn't going to be there in potential. Like and I think that's something I've certainly gotten caught in, is thinking that like there's a way similar to everyone and everything you just described. Like, I see myself in that, in trying to convince someone else, because that was the way to feel better instead of just being it. Like, if you were actually free, like, why would you want someone to follow you? Why would you want someone to even try to be like you? Like, someone emulating you gets really uncomfortable. And it's interesting because this point hit me this morning, how much I was always growing up trying to set a good example for my younger siblings, like the older brother. And it's like I took that to the extreme. I took that to like I had to, like, that. I forgot how much that was always at the forefront, was like, set a good example. And that, oh man, that really reinforces that perception of how you're doing and watching how you're doing. Whew.
Yeah. That's why I like, disappointing people, frankly. That's why I always say, come to a retreat so I can disappoint you and frustrate you and not live up to your expectations of me, right? Because I don't want you to look up to me. I don't want you to look up to Andrew. I don't want you to look up to anyone. It's the whole thing that Buddha was saying, that to put no head above your own. And yet Buddhism still exists, which seems funny to me. But that's the whole, because really, I mean, it's interesting, because if you were to really listen to the message, there'd be no way to create a religion. And people forget that. Like, no, the religion is honoring them. It's like, no, it's totally contradicting them in their name. Like, it's just the funniest fucking thing. Like, it's just like, because we don't want to let go of this certainty. We don't want to let go of this idea that no, there's a group that I can join, right? And they're going to lead me to the promised land because they know the way. We don't want to let that go, right? And the problem is we don't recognize that the people who start those groups are the fuckers who don't know where they're going. They just want to convince you they know where they're going. Because the people that are the basis for these groups, the people who were just doing their own thing before there ever was a group, right? The person that the group is named after, let's just say, they were just doing their own thing. They weren't part of a group, right? That's the common denominator here, is that they weren't following another religion. They weren't following someone else. They were being themselves and communicating the experience that they had in doing so. And then we're like, yeah, we got to do that and identify as people who follow them. It's like, but they're not doing that. And it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just that we don't like it. We don't like it. How many times have people said something like, oh, well, the dualistic unity perspective is no. Dualistic unity is not a thing. It doesn't exist. There's no actual thing. It's just a fucking catchy title to the podcast, which I'm very happy about. I just got to say, right? But it's not a thing. It's not like all of a sudden we're like, dualistic unity is a thing that you must understand and memorize and, cite when you're talking to people. Tell them about dualistic unity. No, really do tell them about dualistic unity, the podcast, not the concept, because that's not a thing, right? But that's the whole point. Like, there's nothing about this that is a thing. It's you. You're the point. You, the listener, you right now, listening to me babble away for how long, I don't know, but I've been babbling for a while. And the point is because I can, and I'm not here to fucking impress you, because you don't need me to impress you. You don't need me to dazzle you with more bullshit. You don't need me to dazzle you with more clever fucking insights. You don't need me to convince you to follow me. You don't need that. You don't need any of that shit. You need to just be where you are and have faith in that. Do what comes next. Stop judging your progress and watch it unfold. But how often does somebody say that to you without saying, and sign up here? Right? And that's the point. I don't want to do that. I'm tired of that shit. I'm sure you are too.
Oh, very, very much so. Yeah. Like so many perspectives of different different desires to be something or be looked at in a different way or seen in a different way have been been coming up recently, and it reminds me of, you mentioned after there was a video I made where I got back after being out and I was kind of drunk and made some, quesadilla things. And you told me like a couple days later, like, best video you've ever made, like my favorite video you've ever done. And I straight up like was super confused by that. And now it makes total sense. Cause like, and I never understood someone who was posting, say someone who's like a comedian, or they post like funny TikToks or whatever. Like, I never really understood like the point, like the point of that. Like, oh, that's kind of tough. Like, that's probably tough to make money doing that. They got to do like ads and stuff. And like, that person was just being themselves. That person was just expressing themselves. Like, someone who posts like funny TikToks are just taking leaps every single time they post something, sharing something they find funny that just happens to be funny for a lot of other people. They're not getting a specific message across. And I've been so driven to get a perspective across, and it's hitting me more and more now how I was just trying to get it across myself. Like, the whole time, the entire time, I've just been trying to get it across to myself. And that's all anyone's doing if they're trying to get something across, like, ever, until they don't. And like, and it's not to say that every time you do, it's like you're trying to get something across. There can be just like the, oh, here's some words. Here's me right now, something I'm saying right now. But as long as you think there's someone to convince, or a desire to convince someone of anything, there's weight. There's so much more weight. Like, if no one needs you, to convince you of anything, it's like the weight doesn't, the potential for weight's there, but it doesn't hit the same way.
Well, because let's think about the sales pitch, shall we? For prayer. What does it do? Right? What is prayer going to do? You are going to take a part of your day so that way you can speak to, let's say, God, and ask for or discuss what's bothering you. You're looking for comfort, you're looking for guidance, you're looking for something. And so you're going to spend a lot of time in your day doing that. And I know, I'm not judging. You got to remember, I've spent more time fucking praying than most people I know. Right? And the reason is because, it's kind of like the expression, there's no atheists in foxholes. My whole fucking childhood was a goddamn foxhole. Like I lived in hell for a long time. And so I did a lot of praying. And all it really did was make me feel better sometimes, right? Or give me a way to express how fucking miserable I was. Really. Okay. So it was an active self dialogue more than anything else. And if you understand that you and God are connected, then you understand that that's exactly what it is. But most of the time, we're just looking for a way to feel better. I don't need to sell you on not praying at all. I really don't. Because what you're going to find if you stop praying is a fuck ton more time in your day. And in that time in your day, you're going to find more experiences, and those experiences are going to reveal more and more of your potential. Because if you abandon the reason that you're praying, which is to feel better, you will start to recognize your strength. Which doesn't mean that you can't sit down and talk to yourself. What it means is you're not sitting down and waiting for an answer that will never come. You're not pleading a case to someone who just can't fucking lift a hand to help you. Right? And you're like, oh, God can help me. That's all just false certainty and cherry picking. That really is it. It's not that things don't occasionally go your way, but it's very much like George Carlin said, like you may as well pray to Joe Pesci because you're going to get about the same percentage of getting what you want and getting what you don't. So it really just comes down to, I don't need to convince you to pray or to convince you not to pray. Not praying for a little while will do that for you. Or you can continue doing what you're doing and then wondering why you're not getting more out of your life while you disconnect from it to talk to a fictional person that is ultimately only making you feel better because you want it to. Because you are talking to an invisible sock puppet. And as you tell it things, it tells you things back that you want to hear.
Yeah. And you can just tell it. You can just ask it things, and then it can start telling you things, and then that's like positive idea, positive idea of yourself right there. And like the whole religion thing has gotten and it's funny because like even just recently it's gotten less like more just in reality, like what is this? And from the perspective of like selfishness to not being so selfish, focusing on yourself to not so much. It's just like it's just on that spectrum. It's another thing that has this like sort of, at least for me, it was always like this shinier golden haze around religion. But it's just like this concrete sort of thing, like false certainty, guarantees where there are none, like control, like selfishness, like it's all super reflective of that. That's just like got this painted over sort of thing. Like the reality of it though is just an expression of like trying to have yeah, trying to have control. And if I just talk to myself and believe that it's something else and just have this belief that it's something else, and it's like my beliefs are mine. Everyone has their beliefs. Let me believe what I want to believe. It's like you can keep doing that, but it's not like what is the reality of what's going on? Like what's actually happening? Like the amount of times it's like I hear, well, you know, just let people believe what they want to believe. It's like, yeah, but it's belief itself. It's belief in something. Like there's such a difference between obviously belief like and not having that. But almost it seems like so much of the world is like, I believe this. Like I believe something. Like some belief must be the truth. And so it's just running around looking for the correct belief instead of looking it in the face and being like, well, why do I have to believe this? Why do I have to believe that I'm something more than what I am? Why do I have to believe that I'm something less than what I am to try and be sure of something? Like, why do I have to
Exactly.
believe?
It's funny. People make the argument like, well, everybody believes. Like everybody takes something at face value. It's like you don't have to though. You know, like you don't have to. Like a lot of people convince themselves that tomorrow is going to be a lot like today, but you don't have to do that. There's a reason you do that. Right? So belief is not required. It's optional. Like you can take in information and go, and for the time being, I'm going to operate underneath that premise. Do you see the difference there? You're not like, I'm going to believe that to be true because that's what I've settled on. But just for now, that's the best I can come up with. I live my life like that. Like that is very much it. Every step of the way, I'm just like, well, for now, this is the best I've got. You know, and then later on, all of a sudden something forms, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know that was there. You know, but I wouldn't have seen it had I settled on what I saw previously. Right? Like it's the whole benefit of not holding on to something is the fact that something else can reveal itself afterwards. But if you find an answer and then you invest in that answer, you won't let that answer go. Right? Because you're invested in it. There's a benefit to it. You worked fucking hard to find it. All that shit, you know? And then all of a sudden there's another consideration. You're like, no, just get rid of that. You know, I don't want to look at that. That means I have to keep opening up this box again and it becomes a question mark. And that question mark makes me uncomfortable. So I just want to be able to close that goddamn box. There's another consideration. No. Right. And all of a sudden you're in conflict with all these considerations that are just trying to widen your context, but you don't want to widen your context because you found comfort. You found an endpoint, right? Despite reality going, that's not an endpoint. You're like, but it is because it makes me comfortable. It's like, but it's not making you comfortable, but it was. You're the problem.
And it's like convincing yourself, no, it's still comfortable. It's like, no, it's not. It's like, yeah, it is. It's like in the corner, like in the fetal position. Like, no, it's still comfortable. I swear to God, it's still comfortable. Something else can make me comfortable. And like even this fucking idea that you can be comfortable, like even when you think that you are, or there's something else that's gonna do it, it's like it's still not it, and it can become like this just subdued sort of experience with it's like I've never been on antidepressants, but like, I don't know, just even similar to alcohol in the way that it can numb you and like even you out. It's just kind of that. Like it's not this full kind of volatile experience, but I totally forget what I was even just what word I was talking about, but comfort, yeah, and, like, seeing the benefit of being uncomfortable, like, it's crazy, and, like, it's fun looking back at old videos and, like, sharing a perspective and then and again, it's not even like because 'cause I'll do the same sort of stuff now, and it's just trying to say something instead of doing it and being it, thinking that there's something to do or be, like, trying to say a right answer, like, find the right way, like, I remember and we talked about this actually before I did, there was, like, this interview, like, a running interview that I did, and I was so like, I wasn't nervous for it, but I was just had such a strong desire to, like, get across the dualistic unity message, like, to get that across, and I remember talking about it on some of the groups and this thought, and then, like, soon after it hit me like, "Oh, it's" like, actually a couple weeks after, it hit me really hard, "Oh, it's not about the conversation at all," and that was sort of like the end of me thinking that this was conceptual, that there was some right way to express anything that wasn't just me expressing myself, that wasn't just me bouncing around to different topics, to different things, wherever I'm at. If I'm like, oh, fuck, what the fuck was I just talking about? Like being able to say that and just continuing on and then it's like continues. But as long as it's like, no, there's a way to do it, there's a way to live. There's a way to express this. There's a thing that's correct. There's a belief out there that's the right one. Like then there is so little, so much less ability to be random to bounce around, to not follow a set trajectory that you created, and then we're like, well, as long as I just stay on that in that direction, then everything will be good and fine. It's the same. It's reflective on everything, like the way you live your life, to the way that you talk, to the way that you spend your day. It's like, how much am I trying to control where this is going, where the flow is happening? Because the flow is every variation of everything that happens in reality. And it's like, how much am I trying to control it? Thinking that it can be controlled, like for everything. And without so much of that, it's like you can bounce around. You can try different things, get into different things. And it's not to say that there's not discomfort that'll come up, but there's at least the willingness to do it. Because then when you're in those situations, there's less desire to, have an idea of it going the right way.
It's funny because that all sounds really stressful, right? Like, but people will look at you going, "Yeah, you sound super confident about that," but you're like, "But I'm stressed out. Like all these rules and things that you have to do, and this message you have to live up to, and this whole thing that you have to do. Like, I'm not having a great time myself. I'm just putting on a show, right? But nobody wants to see that because they themselves, want to do that, and so it's always very funny, at the end of the day. But this is why I like the expression that you'll know the tree by the fruit it bears. See, I like that, but you really have to be looking at that fruit. Like some fruit looks really good. You take a bite and it's not, right? Some fruit's poison. And that's very much the point is when you're looking at somebody and they're like, I have all the answers. Listen to me as I channel an extraterrestrial intelligence that is giving you all of these wonderful insights that I can't be in the room for or share this experience with you as. It's just like, oh, you poor bastard. Like, and that's it. Or, are you too clever for Christianity? It's like, wow, that sounds fucking exhausting. Like, whatever it is that you're up to right there with this whole fucking gimmick, sounds exhausting. It sounds like you put a lot of thought and effort and time, and there's a lot of need behind it. That sounds exhausting, And so immediately, I don't want to continue this conversation with you because you desperately need to lead me somewhere. And I know that desperation. I don't want that fruit. Thank you. Right. But that's it, is the tree by its fruit. But so many people are just like, I got to find the tree that makes me feel the best and I'll eat anything it fucking gives me. And it's just out of desperation. It's just out of that suffering. It's just out of that not wanting to sit in it. And this is why I will tell you one of, I guess, one of the most useful tools, insights, concepts. I don't even know what to fucking call it. Faith, straight up faith. Like if you really want to take that shit in, that will help. Not the concept of faith in something, because that's not faith, is it? Just drink that in. Faith in an idea is not faith. Faith in the idea of yourself isn't faith in yourself. So the only real reality of faith is to continue on. Is to continue on without needing that certainty, without needing that anchor, without needing that proof that you're right and valuable and things are going the way you want and things are going to work out in the best possible way according to your preferences. You don't need any of that. You don't need any of that. And that, oddly enough, is also humility, right? Because at least then you're not trying to be above anyone. But faith, like there was a period of time when I was living in the forest where I was going through the dark at night and I had no glasses for the entire time I was in the forest. Like, and I'm blind, like I don't see much, right? And so I was out there in the dark, in the forest, rain pissing down this tiny little knife nightly. And it was just keep going. It's like I could die. Something could be watching me right now. Right now, I couldn't hear it coming if I wanted to. There was too much fucking rain. Right. And so it's just the exercise of, I don't know. I could sit here and shit my pants and maybe nothing's there, or I can just keep walking. Right. But how often do we get tripped up by maybe something's there rather than just keep walking? Because the perception of danger is very much rooted in the idea of ourself that we're trying to protect. That's why we're worried about something being there. We're like, I don't know if I can handle it. Just keep walking. There's been a number of things you didn't think you could handle. Here you are. So maybe what you think isn't the indication of truth that you would like to believe it is. Just keep walking.
Maybe you've never had any idea of what may come and what's gonna happen and where something's gonna lead. And, like, it's oh, man, because as soon as you think you do, then it's like the rest of your life starts to get filled in so quick. It's like, well, this could happen, which would lead to this, which would lead to this, which would lead to this. And then it's like I'm in this pit of hell and darkness. And it's like it must be this leading to this. And it's like, you don't even know what's after this. Like, hold up. You don't even know what the next thing you're gonna do is today, how the next thing's gonna go, where that's gonna lead, what may hit you, what thoughts are gonna hit you then. You don't know what you're gonna be thinking in 10 minutes, but if you keep being afraid of what you could be thinking or concerned about something or measuring yourself right now or focusing on yourself right now, it's like there's gonna be habitual ones that you keep coming back to. But it's like you don't know. And you don't know where those things are gonna lead or go to. And that's exciting. I mean, it's a different feel as you're in the dark forest without glasses and rain's pouring down, and it's like that's yeah, no, it is what it
It's really
is.
not any different.
Yeah.
I'd almost prefer that, honestly. I mean, to half the shit that goes with living in society, where you're worried about, what's going to happen tomorrow, what's going to happen when you retire, what's going to happen in your relationship, what's going to happen, if you go downtown, what's happening with the government, what's happening with society, what's happening. Like, put me in the dark with a fucking cougar, man. I'll take that shit any day. Any day. Like, it's just, but I mean, that's the point. It's the same lesson. Just keep walking, right? Like you don't know anything about what's going to happen from moment to moment, and if you live your life in constant fear of it, trying to feel better about it, you're never actually going to live your life. You're never going to live your life. And it's really important. If you want to live exposed, live in reality, be vulnerable, be authentic, take a chance on yourself. Because all that really means is letting go of the false certainty that makes a blanket around you that makes it difficult to feel anything except your own shit. That's really all it is. So faith is one of those things that I love it because it's a word that's so easily misunderstood because it becomes faith in something. It's like, I have faith in God. Okay. And what does that mean? It's like, well, that God's going to take care of everything. That's not faith. What do you mean by take care of everything exactly? Like, we just want to believe in some intelligence that ultimately we can plead with. That's the nice thing about prayer, is that it reinforces the irresponsibility that goes with believing in God, right? Because we're like, hey, help. I really need some help. Want you to intercede on my behalf right now. I really believe in you and your limitless nature and all, and I'm really grateful that you're there. Thank you. You're the best. And I know that your plan is perfect, but have you considered me? Because that may change the plan, because I really care about you. I really, really believe in you, and I tell all of my friends about you. So what do you say? And that's really it, right? Oh, good, good. All right, sweet. Thanks. We're good to go. Amen. And that's it. That's really it. And so then you go back out into the world and you're like, see, I'm godly. I'm fucking, this is it. You look at your neighbor who's less godly than you suddenly, and you're just doing that whole thing because it's all just self-dialogue. Right. And I know. I was raised steeped in this shit. I spent years and years and years in this shit. And it's just it goes nowhere. But letting go of it, actually having the faith that these prayers try to talk about, to actually embody just letting go of your need to feel in control, of your need to feel like you know anything, connects you in a way that prayer never will and desperately wants to convince you it can. Right? Because it's just control masquerading as connection. That's really all it is. It's just theater.
Ooh, just fucking control. It always makes me laugh when someone after a sporting event or like a baseball player who hits a home run and he like pops his pops his Jesus chain, does like one of these and points up as if God is just like up there watching this game. He's like, no, he loves me. Meanwhile, the pitcher on the mound also has a Jesus hanging necklace. It's like, hold on. Is anyone else seeing this? Is anyone else seeing how this isn't about a whole system either? Because like players on both teams are oftentimes religious. And then you got the guys after the game or girls like, oh, I just want to first of all thank God for this win right here. All glory to God. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you really think, hold on, you really think that God, everything that's going on in reality, in the universe, everything, and he's tuned in, cracks a Bud Light, got a tub of chips. It's like, this is my team today. Flips on the TV, puts his feet up or her feet up. And yeah, this is my team. This is who I'm choosing today. And because of that, I'm going to throw $10 million so I can have more of what I want on this team. And I'm going to give them that. It's like God's on our side. What the fuck kind of superficial, crazy fucking bullshit story are we telling ourselves? Oh, God.
Anyone that'll make us feel better. That's pretty much it. It's like, that one wore off. Time to come up with another one. This one features a superhero who was born from a virgin and heals people on sight, walks on water, and changes fucking bread into fucking food for the multitudes. And holy shit, he can create wine at the drop of a hat. This is the dopest fucking superhero ever. I'm going to believe in this motherfucker. And that's really it. It's like, how shiny can we make this? And that's the problem with enlightenment. It becomes, instead of being yourself authentically, it becomes a fucking temple on a mountain hidden in the mists. Like it's just fucking craziness at the end of the day when the alternative is to just be yourself. It's just be yourself. It's just that we don't think that's enough. That's all. And it's just, when you get it, when you look at it, you're just like, all right, well, that was exhausting. And that's really all it is. That's all you have to do. Is just recognize, like, you're spending a lot of time, trying to feel better about a life that you could just be living and getting better at. There was a person in our Patreon group yesterday, and they asked, they're like, so are you saying that I don't have to keep thinking there's something wrong with me to fix and that it's going to kind of work out on its own? It's like, yeah, that's more or less what I'm saying. That and a healthy dose of self honesty, which is actually part of what you're saying there, right? Because the idea of yourself isn't you. And as long as you're running in circles trying to fix this idea of yourself, you're going to keep doing that, looking for a solution out of the problem that the running in circles is creating. Right? It's just settling down and then actually developing awareness and sensitivity for yourself. For yourself. Recognizing I'm just trying to feel better. Recognizing I'm just trying to feel more valuable. Recognizing I'm just trying to feel more certain. Just being honest about it. And then recognizing you don't need any of those things. And you never have. Your existence does not depend on those very temporary satisfactions whatsoever. And if you can let them go, you'll experience heaven, God, presence, Shangri-La, enlightenment, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The Tao. You can give it any fancy fucking name you want, but you'll experience life. You'll experience yourself here and now. And you'll be able to walk through life knowing that every decision you make is yours. It's yours because it's not coming from some fictitious need. It's not coming from some sense of lack. It's coming from this moment and your awareness. What more could somebody want? And we want to believe in a path that gets us there, but it's going to happen in the afterlife, right? Why? Why, when the hell that we're trying to escape is self imposed? This has been a dope episode. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We really appreciate it. We're going to continue on Patreon after this. Don't forget, the Colorado mini retreat tickets are now available on dualistiCunity.com. Check out the details. Very 420 friendly. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Crustacean, here we come. We're back for round 2. All right. This has been fun. Bye, everyone.